China's economy is imploding. There are protests in many of the cities. Reports are that wages are not being paid.
CPI down 2 straight months. PPI, factory gate prices, down 30 straight months. That is inconsistent with the notion of a robust economy. Plus, also, they got their debt crisis. Their 2008 in slow motion is occurring now. You got the collapse in the property prices that have already occurred.
Wang Lin stares at her laptop screen at 11 p.m. in her tiny Shanghai apartment. She's 28, has a master's degree in engineering, and makes a modest engineer's salary. The apartment she's looking at costs several million yuan. At her current salary, she'd need to save every single penny for 62 years just to afford the down payment. She closes the laptop. She's done dreaming. Wang Lin isn't alone. Across China, an entire generation is learning to live without expecting progress. Not just on buying homes, not just on getting married. They're disconnecting from the promise that tomorrow will be different. And they're learning to find peace in that silence. The Chinese middle class has collapsed. It's not collapsing, it's not struggling, it has collapsed. And the Communist Party is watching their entire economic model crumble in real time. For decades, the CCP made a simple deal with the Chinese people. Give us your freedom, and we'll give you prosperity. Work hard, follow the rules, don't ask questions, and your children will live better than you did. That deal is dead, and millions of young Chinese people are walking away from the wreckage. The numbers reveal an impossible equation. Home prices are over 40 times the average salary in major cities. In 1995, a teacher could afford an apartment near the school where they worked. In 2024, even doctors are priced out of the suburbs. It's not the buildings that are unaffordable, it's the belief in future ownership. Chen Tao was 26. He graduated from one of China's top universities with a degree in computer science. He works 12 hours a day, 6 days a week at his tech company in Hangzhou. His boss screams at him for missing deadlines that were impossible to meet. His salary is 12,000 yuan a month. After rent, food, and basic expenses, he saves maybe 2,000 yuan. He's calculated that at this rate, he'll be able to afford a wedding in approximately never. What's the point, he tells his girlfriend over WeChat. My parents bought their apartment for 200,000 yuan in 1998. The same apartment now costs 4 million. I make more money than my father ever did, but I'll never afford what he had. This is the Chinese dream. In 2025, work yourself to death for the privilege of renting forever. The 007 mentality has infected every corner of corporate China. 0 personal time, 0 boundaries, 7 days of availability. 007. Lin Yui, a marketing manager at a Shenzhen fintech company, hasn't had a weekend in 8 months. A boss sends work messages at 2 in the morning and expects responses within minutes. She sleeps with a phone under her pillow because missing a midnight urgent email means getting screamed at the next morning. She whispers during a rare coffee break, I calculated my actual hourly wage last week. It's less than what McDonald's pays in America. But if I quit, there are 50 people waiting to take my place who work even longer hours for even less money. This isn't dedication, it's desperation weaponized against an entire generation. The Communist Party needs cheap labor to compete globally. They need high savings rates to fund their state investment projects. They need people desperate enough to accept any working conditions. So, they created a system where standing still feels like progress and falling behind is expected. The real estate market isn't expensive by accident. Local governments depend on land sales for revenue. Developers get rich. Party officials get kickbacks. And young people get crushed under the weight of impossible prices. It's not a housing crisis. It's a wealth extraction system. Chiang Mai has a PhD in biochemistry from Tsinghua University. She once dreamed of curing diseases. Today, she's stocking shelves at a 7-Eleven in Nanjing for 4,500 won a month because pharmaceutical companies are only hiring through unpaid internships that last indefinitely. Her parents remortgaged their house to pay for her education. They believed knowledge was power. Instead, she's watching high school dropouts make more money selling clothes on live streams while she can't afford the bus fare, even the job interviews. I mapped proteins for years, she said, scanning barcodes at midnight. But no one warned me that I'd be shelving snacks instead of solving anything. China built a conveyor belt of graduates with nowhere to go. The unemployment numbers are a joke. Official youth unemployment figures are already troubling, while unofficial estimates suggest the reality is far worse. The government stopped publishing the real numbers because they were too embarrassing. When your economic miracle depends on hiding how badly you're failing, you are not having an economic miracle. Young Chinese have invented a new vocabulary for surrender, Sang culture, embracing total decay and finding beauty in failure. Buddha youth achieving enlightenment through complete indifference to success. Internal friction, the exhaustion that comes from fighting a system designed to crush you. These are not lifestyle choices. They're psychological defense mechanisms. Deng Hao, 25, calls himself a professional disappointment. He has an engineering degree but works part-time at a pet store because full-time jobs require sacrificing his soul. He's mastered the art of appearing busy while doing nothing, of smiling at bosses while planning his escape. He explains, "My generation learned to fail beautifully. When winning is impossible, losing becomes an art form. When the game is rigged, the only victory is refusing to play." This is not rebellion, it's mass psychological withdrawal from a society that views its young people as disposable resources. Lu Wai is 24, lives with his parents in Chengdu. He has a college degree but works part-time at a bubble tea shop. He spends his free time playing video games and watching YouTube videos about life in other countries. When his parents ask when he's getting married, he laughs. Married? With what money? To live where? My girlfriend and I would need both our parents to sell their apartments just to afford the down payment on a place smaller than this bedroom. We'd be in debt for 30 years. And for what? So we can work ourselves to death and watch our kids face the same hopeless future? The social contract has shattered. For 30 years, Chinese parents sacrificed everything so their children could have better lives. They worked brutal hours, saved every penny, and believed their suffering meant something. Now they're watching their educated, talented children deliver food and live in shared dormitories because the economy they built doesn't have room for the next generation. This is generational warfare disguised as economic policy. The brain drain has begun. Hundreds of thousands of young Chinese have already left in recent years. These aren't random people. These are doctors. These are engineers, scientists, entrepreneurs. The exact people China needs to maintain its technological edge. Gao Ban was a software engineer at Alibaba. He made good money, lived in a nice apartment in Hangzhou, and seemed successful by any measure. Last month, he moved to Toronto, Canada. Why? I realized I was living someone else's dream, he explains, working 70 hours a week to make shareholders rich while I could never afford the life I wanted. In Canada, I work 40 hours a week, make less money, but I can actually imagine a future. The new underground railroad runs through Southeast Asia. Young Chinese are paying tens of thousands to human traffickers to smuggle them through Myanmar and Thailand, traveling on fake tourist visas and student exchange programs that lead nowhere except away from China. Fan Ji, a former software engineer, sold his apartment in Chongqing and paid a criminal network to get him to Mexico via a cargo ship. He spent 3 weeks hidden in a shipping container, surviving on instant noodles and bottled water because working 14-hour days for a tech company felt like a slower death. He says, from a detention center in Tijuana, the container was dark and cramped, but for the first time in years, I could sleep without my phone buzzing with work messages. Even as a prisoner, I felt more free than I ever did as a Chinese citizen. When your brightest minds choose human trafficking over human resources departments, your country has lost more than talent. It's lost its humanity. When your educated middle class would rather face Central American death jungles than stay in your country, your social system has failed. The government's response? Make it harder to leave. They've restricted passport renewals, limited foreign currency transfers, and created exit bans for anyone they consider problematic. The message is clear: you're not citizens, you're economic prisoners. But the psychological damage is already done. An entire generation has learned that hard work doesn't pay off, education doesn't guarantee success, and the government views them as expendable resources rather than human beings with dreams. The demographic collapse makes everything worse. China's population is aging rapidly, but young people can't afford to have children. Birth rates have plummeted. The one-child policy created a generation of lonely adults caring for elderly parents while unable to start families of their own. Do the math. Fewer workers supporting more retirees, shrinking consumer base, collapsing tax revenue. This isn't a temporary economic downturn. This is structural demographic suicide. The Communist Party promised prosperity in exchange for freedom. They delivered neither. Instead, they created a system where a tiny elite gets incredibly wealthy while everyone else works themselves to death for the privilege of staying poor. The middle class was supposed to be the foundation of China's future, educated consumers who would drive domestic demand and innovation. Instead, they've created a generation of highly educated serfs who can't afford to participate in the economy they're supposed to power. Wang Lin, the young woman we met at the beginning, has made her decision. She's been learning English online for 6 months. She's saving money for an immigration consultant. She's planning to leave the only country she's ever known because staying feels like slow suicide. She says, "I don't hate China. I hate what they've done to China. They took a civilization thousands of years old and turned it into a factory that eats its own children." The exodus is accelerating. Every month, more young Chinese professionals make the same calculation Li Wai made. The cost of staying is just too high. The cost of leaving might be worth it. The Communist Party built their power on economic growth. When the economy stops delivering for ordinary people, trust dissolves quietly, and trust once lost leaves behind only empty promises and vacant apartments. China's middle class hasn't just collapsed economically, it's collapsed psychologically. An entire generation has lost faith in the future. They've stopped believing that working hard matters, that playing by the rules pays off, that tomorrow will be better than today. This is not an economic crisis. It's the silence that follows a broken promise. And the Communist Party? They're watching their greatest achievement, lifting millions into the middle class, reverse itself in real time. The very people who were supposed to prove the superiority of their system are quietly walking away from it. In the shadows of empty high-rises, the future is being rewritten by those who've stopped believing in the old one. Thank you for watching.